Could these deaths have been avoided? Did they take heed to the warnings? What were the weather conditions before the tornado struck? Again, from my original tape, this is what the day was like.
Terror of devastation, and at least 57 persons dead. More than 1,000 persons have been injured, 3 of them critically. Illinois National Guardsmen were called out to help clear the rubble and guard against the looting. By late Friday night, 33 bodies have been recovered from the southwest Chicago suburb of Oak Lawn. The twister also struck Belvedere, about 65 miles to the northwest of Chicago, just as the schools were closing. 23 persons died, most of them Belvedere High School students. Another person died in the Chicago suburb of Stone Park. 1 was killed in Chicago. WVBM Radio News Director John Callaway is down in Oak Lawn at the moment, covering the story firsthand. Here now is his direct report.
We're reporting to you from an emergency telephone mobile unit just across from police headquarters in Oak Lawn. We've just taken a walking tour of part of this community which has been devastated this evening by tornadoes. We walked between 91st and 93rd Street on Cicero Avenue. It was like something out of a film on Berlin during World War II. Acres upon acres of homes and businesses leveled. The leveling process so devastating that you don't even know where the debris went in some instances. People walking up and down the street weeping. People who have lost their businesses. People who have lost friends or who have friends who have been injured. The latest death count that I've received, and this is not an official figure, is 33 dead. This was a figure quoted by a captain of the police department of Oak Lawn. He told me that at this time in the evening that the biggest problem is that so many units from so many suburbs and nearby cities have streamed into Oak Lawn that the coordination problem is a difficult one. For example, I just witnessed 15 vehicles from DuPage County and from Cook County in a procession not far from the police station. The men got out of the cars after they parked them and are awaiting instructions on what to do. I talked with a member of the civil defense who said that he personally helped pull 5 bodies from the rubble this evening, 5 dead bodies. He also helped pull out others who have been taken to hospitals and who are alive this evening, alive to tell the story of this utter chaos and destruction which has ripped through this once peaceful community. There is a spirit of determination here, the Red Cross workers, the Salvation Army workers, the fire department, men from suburbs, from far north Cook County, from all over the place, the policemen, the journalists, the spirit of determination to pick up the pieces and get going again. The search continues, however, for victims in the rubble. Big machinery has moved in now to try to dislocate some of the heavier rubble to see if any victim remains underneath. This is a weird scene this evening. The street lights out, and yet the air filled with the sight of the red dome lights, the sounds of so many different emergency vehicles, the sirens piercing the evening, and the story of death and destruction told by the people who are permitted to remain on the sidewalk. This is John Callaway reporting from Oak Lawn. Now back to WVBM News.
Thank you, John. The first tornado was sighted in Chicago at 86th Street and Ashland Avenue, according to the Englewood Fire Alarm Office. The next sighting reported was about a minute and a half later at 86th Street and Vincennes Avenue. The next report came from 82nd Street in Cottage Grove, where 38-year-old Grant Miller was electrocuted by a downed power cable. From that report on, both the Englewood and the Loop fire alarm officers were deluged with hundreds of calls reporting damage and injury. The Commonwealth Edison Company immediately sent out crews to repair broken power lines from the tornadoes. They also cautioned those in the affected areas to keep clear of any power lines that were still down. Fire officials report that despite the number of electric cables reportedly downed, the number of fires was very small, and they attribute this to the heavy rain which followed the tornado. At 11:15, the Deputy Police Superintendent's office said it had received reports that 467 persons were treated for injuries at 11 hospitals in the south and south suburban area. Chicago Fire Commissioner Robert Quinn said tonight that the most seriously damaged area on the south side caused by the tornado was a section bounded between 85th and 87th Street from Damon Avenue to Bishop Street. Some 200 structures were left roofless, dozens of trees were uprooted and twisted into grotesque forms over automobiles that had been crushed. Hundreds of residents, as John just reported, were walking the streets, apparently recovering from the shock 6 hours after that tornado hit. Quinn said that 50 pieces of fire equipment and hundreds of other city trucks, power shovels, and lift trucks had been ordered into that area by Mayor Daley. Mayor Daley, by the way, immediately called for off-duty firemen and other city personnel to converge on the south side where the tornado dipped to ground level in several locations. After leaving the Oak Lawn area, the eastbound tornado followed a general line along 87th Street, dipping near Kedzie Avenue, Damon Avenue, Cottage Grove Avenue, and South Lakeshore Drive before except local residents, police, and emergency personnel. By 10 o'clock, several hundred men of the National Guard had been ordered to report for duty. These included the communications and the medical platoons of the 2nd Battalion, 129th Infantry. The men were asked to report to the Armory at 2543 West Madison Street for assignment to Oak Lawn. Because no forward command post was immediately established in the suburb, National Guardsmen were working under the directions of the civil authorities there. The officials at Christ Community Hospital said that about 150 storm victims had been treated there. About the same number was treated at the Little Company of Mary Hospital in Evergreen Park. When both hospitals became swamped with victims, several were transferred to the Holy Cross Hospital in Chicago. Several children who were killed in the storm apparently died in a roller rink at 93rd Street and Cicero Avenue when the tornado leveled it. Only 10 of those taken to the temporary morgue have been identified. The names of the victims are coming in very slowly, but we have a few for you this time, released by Coroner Andrew Tobin. Albert Chrysonis of 6737 West 28th Place in Palos Heights. Bernard Brady of 9245 South Major Avenue in Oak Lawn. Edward Lipstein of 112 South Cicero Avenue, Oak Lawn. Walter Nykeel of 7516 West 67th Street in Summit. John Mobley of 6313 West 99th Street in Oak Lawn. William R. Jackson, 5825 West 90th Place in Oak Lawn. Edward Berman of 9000 Ridgeland in Oak Lawn. Charles McNeil of 9536 South Meade Avenue in Oak Lawn. Harold Cody of 9524 Mansfield Avenue in Oak Lawn. Miss Christine Hines, 13 years old, of 11950 South Natchez Avenue in Worth. Albert J. Samitis of 128 South Sawyer Avenue, Evergreen Park. John Hagan, 9715 South Merriwell in Oak Lawn. Andrew Golden of 10131 South Cullen Avenue in Oak Lawn. Those are all the names of the victims in today's tornado that we have at hand here from the area around suburban Oak Lawn. A tornado that we reported earlier hit Belvedere at 3:50 p.m., just as the Belvedere High School students were boarding buses in the field near the school. A police captain said that 9 were killed as the buses were scattered like leaves and smashed. As the twister neared the new Belvedere High School, the terrified students sought shelter in the library. As they huddled against the walls, the windows exploded under the tornado's force, injuring dozens of them. Mayor Claire Headland has estimated that 1,000 persons were injured in Belvedere, 300 of them critically. Among the dead were 3 teenagers who touched one of the many broken power lines lying in the streets. Coroner Albert Wheeler of Boone County tonight identified the following as some of the victims of tornadoes that lashed Belvedere. 32 bodies had been removed from the wreckage, a spokesman for Christ Community Hospital declared, and he said that several of the dead were wearing roller skates. Another twister which struck Belvedere 65 miles northwest of Chicago killed 17 persons. 12 o'clock midnight. We left the aura midnight of a tragic day, and we went into another day in Chicago, one which we hope will be much, much better. But only one headline. Only one headline, that is the tornado that struck our Chicago area. A series, in fact, of killer tornadoes have killed 57 persons and injured more than 1,000 in Chicago and northern Illinois. Those are the headlines, that is the headline, and W News, despite being off the air due to the fact that we were right in the direct path of this tornado, returned as quickly as possible to the airlanes, and colleagues Bill Gregory, Mike Tretter, Chuck Peel, and Paul Nichols in the field, and all the others did a magnificent job of coverage. We'll continue that coverage throughout the night, keeping you informed of every facet of this gigantic and tragic tornado. Right now, Paul Nichols in the field has a special report for our W News.
A disaster of major proportions hit the Chicago area shortly after 4:30 this afternoon. The city of Belvedere on the west of Chicago is a disaster area with at least 20 deaths reported and hundreds injured by a tornado that struck the city. Damaged by tornadoes at approximately 5 to 5:15 this afternoon. One tornado passed through the village of Oak Lawn, which has been named a disaster area and has been sealed off by police and civilian volunteers. Traffic has been rerouted. At least 12 deaths have been reported, and volunteers are searching debris now for additional dead. Surrounding hospitals are full to capacity.
In court, that was the scene of nearly total destruction. Some 200 homes in a 6-square-block area were either leveled or left with only fragments of their walls standing. Police, civilians, and National Guardsmen, they're searching now. They're searching the ruins for more survivors, believed still perhaps trapped in the basements covered by the debris. Well, I'll have more news for you in just a moment.
Disaster struck northern Illinois last night. At least 50 persons are reported dead in Illinois, and another one in Hillsdale County, Michigan. An estimated 1,500 persons were injured. The amount of damage is impossible to determine at this time, but it is enormous in scope. The Chicago suburb of Oak Lawn was hit hardest. At least 28 persons were killed in that area. The place looked like a war zone this morning, and most of the lives lost in Oak Lawn were among the residents of a trailer park, which was reduced to nothing but junk lumber. The parents' dance scheduled for tonight at the Brother Rice High School at 100th Street and Pulaski Road is canceled for tonight because of the nearby tornado damage. At Belvedere, Illinois, at least 20 persons were killed, 9 of them students at a high school. Damage in Belvedere was very heavy, said to be more than $15 million in losses. Many persons are still listed as missing in Belvedere. Another life was lost in Chicago, one more in Stone Park. More news after an important announcement from the All-State Insurance Company.
Tornadoes brought to you by the manufacturer of the world-famous Telex hearing aids and will ship hearing aid service at 30 North Michigan Avenue here in Chicago. Now, later on, we'll have a special announcement of tremendous importance to anyone hard of hearing. In fact, anyone who's had a hearing loss. So, if you've had a hearing loss or know someone who has, you get a paper and pencil, have it ready. I'll have the complete details for you in just a few minutes. That may have been the worst series of tornadoes in the history of northern Illinois, smashed through this area last month. Worst hit of any community was Oakland, Illinois, where at least 28 persons were reported killed. Another 20 were killed in Belvedere, Illinois. One each died in Stone Park in Chicago. Another person died in Hillsdale County, Michigan. But Oakland suffered the most in death and damage. The heaviest toll in Oakland was at a trailer court, 91st and Cicero. Our WBBM Radio News Director John Callaway went over to the trailer court very early this morning, and there he talked with the Oakland Fire Chief Al Hewlett.
We've been on the same course since the hit. I spent the first 2 hours on the corner of Southwest Highway 95th Street.
Describe that situation, that scene for us as you recall it, sir.
Well, my first impression, because I live right there, was that the high school, the local high school was in. There was a liquor store and bar, and the car was completely flattened. Probably in the area of 50 to 75 cars that were rolled over, spotting with people in it yet and screaming. Immediate call of course was for all the help we could get because we knew we had a serious situation on our hands. And the Callaway food stores, which was blown in from the west side, with several people in the building. It would be easy to assume at that time of the day they were in the building yet. And after we started to clear that area away, making sure that the buildings, the cars, and not have people in them, now we're concentrating on the trailer park here.
How many victims have you pulled out of this trailer court?
I don't know because there were several pulled out before I came on this side of town. Altogether, at the present time, as near as I know, the total is 23 deaths.
Chief, there's an incredible amount of equipment here, sophisticated equipment, effort. Now, did you call for all of this, or did it descend upon you?
Right, it's dependent upon us. We have, my understanding, we have over 50 fire departments represented here.
Do you have any feel for a pattern now, a path of this tornado, or were there more than one tornado?
There was one tornado. It came, the true path of the tornado from southwest to northeast. It touched down on Roberts Road and 103rd, as we understand. And then it touched down definitely the Southwest Highway and 95th Street, and now here at 91st and Cicero, and this is nearly a direct straight line.